So thank you everyone for joining this training session over iTravel. As Kathy mentioned, we have become a new partner of the university and super excited about our partnership. As she also mentioned, you have dedicated teams of agents that during the business day, they are solely dedicated to your travelers. And then we have a separate team that will cover your travelers after hours, which Kathy did mention. If this is your first time logging into iTravel since our partnership, it may look a little different. iTravel, which is obviously a direct source from Concur, has been updated to meet a lot of traveler suggestions and improvement requests. I'm super excited to go through this, but there are a couple of just housekeeping items that I do want to talk about. When you first log in, yes, many of you have already booked in Concur and or have a profile built, but I do ask that everyone prior to your first trip, since our new partnership has launched, that you do go in and make sure that you are set up correctly. I also want to ensure that the most up-to-date information is found in there, and also any information that will assist you through this booking process is included. Oftentimes, many people think, well, I'm not a status member with an airline or a hotel. This doesn't really apply to me. But when we talk about levels of communication and how quickly we want to get in touch with you, or obtaining folios from hotels or the final receipts from the car rental agencies, which we'll talk about here in just a second, it is very, very important to make sure if you have membership numbers with any of the suppliers out in the industry, that you please put them in Concur. That is going to help you as you transition through a trip on multiple levels. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. There have been some dramatic changes within the industry, as many of you are well aware of. I know, especially as a road warrior myself, oftentimes I travel, no problems, no anxiety, I'm good. I recognize in the past probably 6 weeks, many of your anxieties when it comes to travel has probably been slightly heightened. I can assure you that air travel is still the safest form of of transportation. But if you have any concerns, questions, reach out to your team of dedicated agents during the business hours. They can definitely help talk through any options that you may need to consider if travel by air is not one of your top choices right now. So let's talk about your profile. When you first get your profile, please ensure the name that we have is the name that it matches on your governmental issued ID. So whether it is your Illinois driver's license or maybe you live in a different state, and or your passport. Also, you may never have plans to travel internationally for the university, but I do want to ensure that you do upload your passport information, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. It is critical it does match the name that appears on whatever governmental issued ID that you will be utilizing to get through TSA. Also, as a reminder, we're less than 2 months out from making sure that your ID is a real ID. So by May 7th, if your driver's license isn't deemed a real ID through the appropriate channels, please make sure that that your ID is a real ID come May 7th. There are required fields throughout your profile. It is very important that we make sure we have the important information in those required fields. If you do not, you will not be able to make a booking. You'll get an error. So it is important to make sure anytime you see any of these required fields that they are completed. Now I'm going to go through some of this. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'll go through quickly just out of respect for our time. However, I am going to stop on contact information, and I know that's silly, but I do want to point out while it does say required fields, work, home, mobile phone, I did speak to this just a second ago. I want to be able to communicate with you as quickly as possible. And when I mean that means anybody in the industry. So whether it's your team of dedicated agents, whether it's an after hours agent, whether it's the suppliers, the best way to get a hold of many of us is through our cell phones. I don't even have a work phone anymore, or I do, but it's transferred to my cell phone. I don't have a home phone anymore. So, in the event that there is a trip disruption, let's say like Saturday, I was at the airport here at DFW trying to get to another city for a campus meeting yesterday. My flight was canceled. Thank goodness I happened to be having, for whatever reason, had my cell phone in my hand, like many of us do. And American immediately sent a message through the app. I am a member of I am a platinum member of American Airlines. So obviously I have the app for American on my phone, but they were able to communicate with me through my app. That's what I was talking about earlier. You may not have status with an airline, but if you have a reward number, you probably have the app downloaded on your phone. So we want to be able to communicate as quickly as possible with you that there is a trip disruption. So whether it's contacting you on your cell phone directly, through the airline app, or even through, email, whatever means of communication we can utilize to get in touch with you as quickly as possible, we're going to do. Put your cell phone number in all three boxes, because I will tell you, American, like many of the suppliers, is going to contact the first number they see. And for everybody who has a work phone, that is going to be that work number. For your email address, this is my demo site. So obviously it's my Anthony Travel. Yours is the university.edu that is appropriate with your account. Please don't adjust that first login. That's your login, or that email. That is your login for iTravel. If you want to add a personal email address, like I have multiple personal email addresses, you can add them, but just leave that first email alone. Emergency contact, always important, especially in this day and age. If we need to get a hold of you very quickly, or there's a situation, we need to get a hold of your emergency contact, please make sure you include that. And then what I like to call the meat and the potatoes of any of our profiles. This is where I get my road warriors. There's a lot of misconceptions out there that if I'm platinum with American, like I mentioned, I won't get on the upgrade list, or I won't accrue miles, or I won't get my 3 free bags, which we'll talk about baggage because I know there's been some disruptions about that here in just a second. But you do get all those benefits. So it's important that you input your membership information, which I'll show you here in a second. But some of you on this call, or some of your travelers, may have access to additional discounted fares or hotel rates. So if you're a AAA member like myself, or former government, military, or a senior AARP member, if you check one of these boxes, you will have visible rates at those discounted rates. However, I cannot stress enough, make sure that you're traveling with the appropriate identification. Pre-pandemic, nobody ever confirmed I was a AAA member, I'll be honest. Post-pandemic, I've been asked more times than ever before. Now, are they not going to let you check into a hotel? No, they're going to let you check into a hotel. You just may not be able to get that discounted rate that you previously had selected. So it is important that if you have any travelers that check any of these boxes, that they please make sure they're traveling with the appropriate identification. When you first get your profile, your seat preference will say do not care or don't care. I promise you, if you ignore me the rest of this presentation in iTravel, please understand you're going to care, because that don't care is another way of saying you don't care. So you want to sit in that middle section, which nobody wants to sit in the middle seat. So even if you don't have any other preferences, go in here and update it. Mine, in my actual real profile for Anthony Travel, says aisle. This is twofold. One, I do these trainings all the time, and I even just made a booking to go to another campus, and I always forget to select my seat. That's okay. iTravel is going to look at your profile and go, Crystal prefers to sit in the aisle. We'll go ahead and put her in the aisle seat for her. But also, many of you may have travel arrangers, or you work with a travel agent that's dedicated to the university. Time is money. I cannot stress that enough in the industry. A lot of people are not aware how quickly airfare fluctuates. I will be completely transparent. I got home from a campus last night at 11 p.m. I know I have to fly to another campus here in 2 weeks. Airfare from last night at 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. this morning has already fluctuated $250. So I want to act as quickly as possible. As soon as I know that I have a flight, I should go ahead, or I have a travel that's going to require airfare, I should go ahead and make that reservation, because that's going to guarantee the lowest fare available, but also going to give me the most flight options. So that's why I say, make sure your profile is up to date. You may not have any other membership numbers, but I don't want to stop the booking process so that one of your agents, let's say Rebecca, has to go, well, Kathy put in a reservation with me, but I don't know if she likes to sit in an aisle or a window seat. Well, I better not book without that. No, we want this to go as quickly as possible. We want to be able to secure your reservation as quickly as possible. So you don't want to hold up a booking process, let's say with one of your travel arrangers. Generally, if there's a travel arranger within the university, they probably book on behalf of multiple people. So if I'm booking for Kathy or Sharon or Mary, I'm not going to remember everybody's preferred seat. So it's important that you update this. Now, to the right of that, I would love to tell you that if you wanted to sit in the forward or the exit row every single time, that's going to happen. But if you've traveled recently, you know generally from about row 15 forward is paid preferentials, meaning you don't have status or you haven't paid for that seat. The airline's not going to allow you to sit there. So because of this, I would love to say this matters, but if you don't have status, generally it doesn't. Special meals, if you have any dietary needs, and then preferred departure airport. If you were to look at my personal profile, because I live in the DFW area, I actually live closer to DFW than I do Dallas Love Field. So my profile says preferred departure airport is DFW. That could be for many of you, depending on if you live closer to Midway or Chicago, for example, or if you're just a remote employee of the university and don't live near any other airport that you would think is commonly used for the university. So again, this isn't for me. This is for my agents. So in a hurry, they know, okay, Crystal's leaving from home. She prefers that from Dallas. Let's go ahead and give her options for Dallas, DFW. Hotel preferences, car rentals, all pretty self-explanatory. And then adding a program. This is where, if you have any memberships, air, rail, car, hotel, you add them. You can only add 5 at a time. Yes, I want you to get the benefits. So again, I keep mentioning I'm executive platinum with American. I get specific seats for free. I get 3 bags at no cost. Because of that, I want to ensure that with every single reservation, my American Airlines number is included. So I've added that in my profile. But also, like I mentioned earlier, American updated their app quicker than they notified Anthony Travel on Saturday. So American updating their app, even granted it was a cancellation on Sunday when I finally was trying to get out, it was a delay, it was a gate change. So however we can communicate the quickest with you is how I would like to do it. So add your frequent flyer numbers or hotel numbers or cars. Now, I am not a great traveler. In fact, I probably do a lot of things I don't recommend. One is on my Marriott app, because I'm a Marriott girl, I check out every time. I don't go to the front desk and get that folio, or I don't, return the car keys to the room. I just check out of my hotel and I leave. Because of that, I do want to stress it is your traveler's responsibility to get the final folio from the hotel. Same with the final car receipts. We will never get those. We can provide you with the airline receipt. We cannot provide you with a car receipt or the hotel folio. That is because those two suppliers do not bill your form of payment until the trip is completed. Meaning, I don't know if you had to pay for parking at that hotel. I don't know if they had an additional city tax. I don't know, and that's a bad example. I do in most cases, but I don't know if there were additional add-ons while you stayed. I don't know if when you return that vehicle, you forgot to fill up for fuel. So please make sure your travelers know they have to get those final folios. But if, like I said, I'm just that traveler that checks out via an app, or I just hand the keys to the national rep and said, yep, use my email and my profile. What'll happen is they will email those final folios to the email associated with my frequent flyer account or frequent membership account. So by the time I even get to the terminal, National's already emailed me my final folio. Or as soon as I check out, before I actually leave the hotel property, normally I have the final folio in my email. So that's really helpful for many of your travelers who are busy and forget to get those final receipts. TSA secure flight, gender, date of birth. Now, we do have to follow very, very strict PCI or PII guidelines. So your date of birth, it is listed, but we can't show it. So if you have any concerns, you don't think we have the right date of birth, I can assure you we do. But if you have any concerns, you're always welcome to go there and update it, redress, pre-check number. And then I mentioned passports. So with passports, again, you may have no plans traveling internationally. I will tell you, I'm a huge proponent of adding your passport in here. Rule of thumb is you must have 6 months of a valid passport from the date of your return. So if I'm returning internationally today, my passport has to have 6 months of validity. It cannot expire between now and September 11th. So add your passport. Concur will send you a reminder saying, hey, Crystal, your passport's set to expire in 6 months. While yes, many of us can now update our passports or renew online, that does not apply for everybody. So if you have somebody on your team that's under, I think, 25 now, you cannot apply online for a renewal. So it's very important that we know as quickly as possible as travelers that we need to update our passport to renew it. Visas. 2025 has been the year of updates with visas. If you traveled to Brazil in the past, effective this year, you now have to have a visa going to Brazil. Even if you stop over, it's a transient visa. You've got to have one. Europe, they're moving towards ETAs, electronic travel authorizations. You have to apply for those. Generally, it takes about 3 days to get. So I encourage you to look into the countries that if you have international travel this year, there very well could be a European country that you haven't had to have an ETA in the past that you do now. I will also give you the heads up that is changing daily. I think Italy, if it hasn't been added, is going to be added very soon. So many of the countries we are used to traveling. I will give an example. My husband and I are going to Europe in May. I've already told him, don't let me forget, we have to have an ETA this time. We went last year, we didn't have to have one. This year we will, depending on what countries we choose. Adding an assistant, you simply just add one here. You can make primaries or individual assistants. Primaries are going to get notifications for every travel that somebody has booked on your behalf. So if Kathy is my primary, Rebecca is my just regular travel assistant, and Rebecca makes a booking for me, Kathy's going to get those updates for me. So remember, there are two distinctions. You can only have one primary. You can have multiple regular arrangers. Then adding a credit card. If you had to add a credit card, please, this is the number one profile mistake we see. Travelers do not indicate what those credit cards can be possibly used for. That does not mean you have to use those. But if you call an agent, let's say you call Rebecca and say, utilize the card in my profile, and you don't have any of these boxes, you're essentially just telling iTravel to save that card. You're not telling iTravel to share that card number. They cannot automatically share it if you haven't designated a box or a particular part of the reservation to utilize that card for. It is critical that you check one of those boxes. Otherwise, you're essentially just saving that card in your iTravel. So let's go back. I know that's a lot of information, but let's go back to the main page. So on this main page, there's a lot of information. One thing I do want to note is if you are assigned as a travel arranger, you'll same as you have before, you'll go up here, you'll select that person. That way, again, PCI compliant. I don't have to ask Kathy for her credit card number or her iTravel login. I log in as myself, then go in and act as if I'm Kathy. So it's very important your profile is completely up to date. Some of these alerts you may have already connected to TripIt. I love TripIt. I live and breathe by TripIt. I think it's a fabulous app. If you don't have it, it keeps all my itineraries together. And then e-receipts. This is very important. Sign up for e-receipts. So if you do fail to forget that folio and they can send it, they can that way. There's a lot of information. I know Kathy showed where to go on the website to get this information, but keep in mind how to get a hold of your agents between 8 and 5 is here. You can also email. Concur travel support. If you get an error, you're welcome to reach out to that team. And then after hours, this is critical. Save this number in your cell phone. Again, if you need to get an airline folio, you can click your invoice or print my invoice. And then each one of these are just tutorials to go through your bookings if you need it.